very warm welcome. You're watching Gravitas with me, Raisha Said. A cover story tonight, we will tell you how India's diplomatic offensive against Pakistan-based terror is finally paying off, with the United States of America designating the Resistance Front or the TRF as a foreign terror organization. We will also tell you how tensions are spiraling in Syria, and this is a day after a brief ceasefire. Fighting has now erupted again between the Druze minorities and the Bedouin tribes in Suaida province. And on the show tonight we ask, is Damascus losing control of its own territory? Finally, we will tell you how Russia is ramping up its nuclear muscle, with reports now suggesting that Moscow has been quietly constructing 5 secret nuclear bases. All that and a lot more lined up for you on the show tonight. Let's get you started. India's diplomatic offensive against Pakistan-backed terror is paying off. The United States of America has officially designated the Resistance Front or the TRF as a foreign terrorist organization and specially designated global terrorist outfit. Yes, you heard that right. It's been nearly 3 months since the horrific Pahalgam massacre, where TRF terrorists, Pakistan-backed Lashkar proxies, killed 26 innocent civilians. Since then, India launched Operation Sindoor, combining precision military strikes on terror camps in Pakistan with a powerful diplomatic offensive. And today, the world brands TRF as the Pahalgam killers, as America officially declares them global terrorists, vindicating India's long-standing campaign against Pakistani terror outfits. India's Minister of External Affairs welcomed the move, calling TRF a proxy of Pakistan-based Lashkar-e-Taiba. On X, India's Foreign Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar hailed what he called a strong affirmation of India-US counter-terror cooperation. Remember, the TRF carried out the Pahalgam massacre on April 22nd, killing 26 tourists in Jammu and Kashmir. India said the attack was a conspiracy hatched by Pakistan's ISI and Lashkar-e-Taiba and executed by Pakistani terrorists. The US State Department said that this decision reflected the Trump administration's commitment to national security and Trump's call for justice after the Pahalgam attack. US added TRF to LET's designation under Section 219 of the Immigration and Nationality Act and Executive Order 13224. Earlier, US Secretary of State Marco Rubio had said that this move shows US resolve to counter terror and uphold security interests. Following the attack, India had launched a major diplomatic campaign under Operation Sindoor, targeting terror bases in Pakistan and also sending a delegation to the United Nations demanding TRF's designation. Although the UN Security Council condemned the Pahalgam attack on April 25th, it perhaps stopped short of naming TRF. The issue also featured at the July 2nd Quad Foreign Ministers meeting in Washington, D.C., where the attack was strongly condemned. India's foreign ministry called the designation a timely step reflecting deep cooperation between India and the US, asserting New Delhi's zero-tolerance policy towards terror. Meanwhile, India is also ramping up its defense capabilities from submarine rescue vessels to missile tests. India is marking a powerful show of strength. And just today, Indian Navy commissioned Nistar. It is the first indigenously designed and constructed diving support vessel, and it was commissioned into the Indian Navy today in Visakhapatnam. The ship is designed to undertake complex deep-sea saturation diving as well as rescue operations, a capability select navies possess across the globe. Built by Hindustan Shipyard Limited, it measures 118 meters, displaces over 10,000 tons. INS Nistar is installed with state-of-the-art diving equipment such as remotely operated vehicles, self-propelled hyperbaric lifeboat and also diving compression chambers. It can further undertake diving and salvage operations up to 300 meters depth. It would also serve as a mothership for deep submergence rescue vessel in a bid to rescue and evacuate personnel. And that's not all. Within just 24 hours, India also successfully test-fired 3 major missile systems, strengthening its strategic firepower. On July 16th, the Army tested the upgraded Akash surface-to-air missile in Ladakh at over 15,000 feet altitude, a challenging environment with low oxygen and high winds. Akash Prime can neutralize fighter jets, cruise missiles and drones up to 35 kilometers range and 20 kilometers altitude. And just yesterday, India also test-fired its Prithvi 2nd and Agni 1st short-range ballistic missiles from Chandipur, Odisha. While Prithvi 2 has a 350-kilometer range, Agni 1 has 700-kilometer range. Both form a critical part of India's nuclear deterrent arsenal. It was tested under Strategic Forces Command supervision and meeting all technical parameters as well. From diplomatic victories against Pakistan-backed terror to major defense upgrades at home, India is sending out a strong and clear message. It is vigilant and ready. Well, tensions are spiraling in southern Syria once again. Just a day after a brief ceasefire, fighting has erupted between Druze fighters and Bedouin tribes in Sweda province. Well, the fragile calm has shattered and the consequences could reach far beyond Syrian borders. Syrian government forces have reportedly returned to Sweda despite earlier claims that local factions would handle security. The resumption of fighting raises major concerns. Number one, is Damascus losing control of its own territory? Or is Israel opening another front in Syria to keep Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu in power? On the ground, armed tribes allied with the Syrian government could be seen patrolling the streets in Sweda. Well, after renewed clashes broke out overnight between Druze armed groups and members of Bedouin clans and simultaneous fighting between forces allied with Syria's government and Druze fighters outside Sweda was also reported. Apart from that, plumes of smoke and fire from the fighting and clashes could be spotted across various parts of the Sweda province. According to war monitors, nearly 600 people have died in the fighting since Sunday, with the number of casualties in the ongoing fighting expected to rise further. Reports of Syrian military vehicles moving through Sweda contrast sharply with Damascus's official denials. The Syrian Interior Ministry says that no new deployments are underway, while Israeli officials have reportedly allowed a 48-hour corridor for limited Syrian government troop movements in Sweda in a bid to calm the hostilities there. And this chaos, it showcases a major setback for Syria's new leadership. Syrian President Ahmed al-Shara had hoped to stabilize regions like Sweda by partnering with local leaders and warned that any misstep there could pull Syria back into broader war, undermining years of efforts to recover from civil conflict. But those efforts now appear increasingly fragile.
شباب خصف خطونا بسرعة بسرعة
إذا استهدافنا من هيئة الأركان بشكل كامل.
قصف ثاني
دمروه. منتصر صوتك على الهواء.
قصف هيئة الأركان بغارتين.
Earlier this week, Israel hit multiple targets across Syria, including sites in Damascus and Latakia, which included the presidential palace and Syrian military headquarters in Damascus. And these are not isolated operations. Israel right now seems to be expanding its military reach, perhaps opening another front in Syria altogether. Yesterday, the IDF convoys were seen near the Golan Heights, close to the Druze town of Majd al-Shams. It could be seen advancing deeper into Syria, perhaps indicating that Israel may be preparing for sustained operations on a new front. Experts are asking whether this surge in Israeli action is really just about security or if it is about politics. With mounting domestic pressure and demonstrations at home, experts say that Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu could be using Syria to rally support and stay in power, especially as his government has lost major alliances in the Knesset just this week. The US has publicly criticized Israel's recent strikes on Syria. Washington has made it extremely clear that it does not support Israel's attacks against Syria. The US State Department says it expressed disapproval after the strikes on Damascus and further urged Israel to show restraint.
I can tell you regarding Israel's intervention and activity is the United States did not support recent Israeli strikes.
Still, Israel's actions suggest it holds major influence over what unfolds next in southern Syria. And its warnings to Damascus to stay out of the south are reportedly also testing Syria's sovereignty and undermining al-Shara's leadership, still trying to rebuild legitimacy in Syria at this point of time. There's also reportedly fear that Israel's claim of protecting the Druze community could perhaps fuel deeper divisions among Syria's minorities, whether Druze, Alawite or Kurdish, putting the fragile coalition needed to reconstruct Syria after 14 years of civil war under great risk. As Israel intensifies its campaign and Washington voices opposition, the conflict is rapidly surging, and in the middle of it all, millions of Syrians face yet another uncertain future. While Syrian Arab tribes have declared a mobilization and made a powerful cultural statement amidst the ongoing fighting, especially in southern Syria, some tribes in Syria have announced that they will not drink Arabic coffee until all Syrian provinces return to government control. And this is no ordinary gesture, because Arabic coffee is not just a drink in Syrian tribal culture, it is considered a sacred tradition. For centuries, tribes across the rural regions of Syria have treated this coffee as a symbol of hospitality, dignity, and peace. Even as modern beverages fill store shelves, Arabic coffee reportedly remains irreplaceable in Syrian tribal homes. It is generally the first offering to a guest, the centerpiece of any gathering, and often the bridge to resolving disputes or conflicts. In the Syrian tribal society, major disputes ranging from verbal spats to serious crimes are reportedly often mediated over a cup of coffee, this Arabic coffee. So boycotting Arabic coffee isn't a small act. It is perhaps a statement of unity and resistance, perhaps showing how deeply these tribes are tied to their land and how much of the goal of Syrian reunification means to them in today's time. Our next story is about Russia. It is ramping up its nuclear muscle even as it mocks America's threats. According to a report on Business Insider, Russia has been quietly constructing 5 secret nuclear bases, a development that is sure to send chills down the spines of NATO countries and raise fears that Moscow is preparing for a long, drawn-out confrontation with the West. Take a look at this map on your screens right now. It shows the 5 places where these facilities are located. And these are, let me name it for you, Kaliningrad, Kamchatka, Nova Zemlya, Osipovichi, which is in Belarus, and Gadzhikova in Murmansk in the Arctic Circle. And the Kremlin's message is extremely clear. Former President Dmitry Medvedev called US's new Ukraine policy a theatrical ultimatum, and behind the scenes, Russia is busy building up its nuclear infrastructure at breakneck speed. Let's zoom in first to Ospivochi base in Belarus. According to this report, a high security facility is being built here with triple fencing, unloading ramps and rail links for nuclear warhead deliveries. Further north, in Russia's Arctic region of Murmansk, Gadzhikova facility is being built. It is located near the NATO countries of Norway and Finland. And Russia is expanding its naval base home to submarines armed with intercontinental nuclear missiles. And according to this report, Russia is constructing at least 6 new buildings this year alone. In Kaliningrad, Russia's Baltic outpost bordering NATO nations, it is reportedly reinforcing its tactical nuclear storage bunkers with new layers of security. And then, in Kamchatka, on Russia's far eastern edge, satellite images reportedly show new buildings as well as new fortified nuclear storage sites under construction. And lastly, in Novaya Zemlya, in the Arctic, massive new structures and tunnel expansions have been seen, pointing to a major nuclear buildup in the region. Remember now, Russia currently has over 4,300 active nuclear warheads, which is the world's largest stockpile. Meanwhile, the Kremlin is doubling down on its warnings. On Wednesday, spokesperson Dmitry Peskov slammed U.S. arms supplies to Ukraine as a profit-driven enterprise. He also asserted Russia's updated nuclear doctrine, declaring that any attack by non-nuclear state is backed by nuclear power, will be treated as a joint assault. These warnings and reports of secret alleged upgrades come as the U.S. president threatens fresh tariffs against Russia as well as arms sales to Ukraine, raising fears that the Kremlin's nuclear saber rattling could be more than just mere rhetoric. Well, Russia and China are making a fresh push to revive the RIC. That's Russia, India, China Trilateral Group. And that's after Russia and China backed the idea of reviving this troika. But the question is, can India trust this outreach, especially when border tensions with China remain unresolved and with Beijing continuing to support Pakistan's anti-India activities? Let's understand in the next few minutes. First, it started with Russian Deputy Foreign Minister Andrei Rudenko, who, according to Russian news outlet, said that Moscow is negotiating with both Beijing and New Delhi to bring back the RIC format. He was quoted as saying, and I'm quoting him here, "We expect RIC to resume. These three countries are important partners and founders of BRICS. The absence of this format is inappropriate." Rudenko added that the revival would depend on relations reaching a level that allows trilateral work. And now China has backed this. Asked about these comments, Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson said that cooperation among Russia, India and China serves the interests of all the three countries and contributes to regional and global peace and stability. China's Lin Jian said, and I am quoting again, "China stands ready to maintain communication with Russia and India in a bid to advance trilateral cooperation under the RIC format." In response, the Indian Ministry of External Affairs took a measured stance, describing RIC as a consultative format to discuss global and regional issues of common interest. It said any meeting would be worked out mutually. MEA spokesperson has said, and I quote here, "RIC is a consultative forum. Future meetings will be scheduled at mutual convenience," unquote. So the question right now is, why are Russia and China so keen, so eager to revive this grouping now? Well, for Moscow, India is a critical partner. It's an important partner, especially as Russia faces deep isolation from the West, and that is over its war in Ukraine. India remains one of Russia's largest oil buyers and a major arms market. Reviving the RIC ensures that Russia is not entirely dependent on China for its diplomatic heft in Asia and can also showcase its relevance as a Eurasian power broker. Which brings us to China. Here's why China needs India. For Beijing, RIC is a way to keep India engaged within an Asian framework and also as a way to perhaps counterbalance India's growing ties with the United States of America, Japan and even Australia under the Quad. Sure, as of now, China has been making overtures to normalize ties with India. Earlier this week, Indian Foreign Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar even met leaders from Russia and China on the sidelines of the SCO summit. But joint work under RIC has been stalled since 2020. First, due to COVID-19 pandemic and then because of the deadly border clash in Ladakh's Galwan Valley. And so, as far as China is concerned, India remains cautious. The question being, can New Delhi really trust Beijing at this stage? The military standoff in eastern Ladakh is yet to be resolved. Chinese troops remain deployed in forward areas, and India has repeatedly stated that normal ties with Beijing entirely depends on peace and tranquility along the line of actual control, the LAC. Add to this, China's continued support to Pakistan, including its infrastructure projects in Pakistan-occupied Kashmir and the blocking of UN terror listings against anti-India terrorists. All these factors only deepens the trust deficit. So while Russia and China want India back in their troika to rather showcase the unity and counter Western influence, India's participation will depend on how seriously China addresses New Delhi's core concerns. For now, the troika is back on the table. The question being, can it walk the talk? That we'll have to wait and watch. Let's now tell you what else is lined up for you on the show tonight. We will tell you how Taiwan is in a war mode, with its defense ministry describing this month's drill as designed with a potential Chinese invasion in mind. From the Ukraine-Russia war, we will tell you as Ukraine continues to battle Russia, it is now turning to its youngest generation, Gen Z, to take up arms and join the fight on the front lines. Amid ongoing trade deal talks between US and India, we will tell you how the issue of non-veg cow milk has now become a bone of contention. Well, amid ongoing trade deal talks between the United States of America and India, there has been a growing focus on the dairy sector that feeds more than 1.4 billion people and employs over 80 million workers. However, something called non-veg milk is now making headlines because it is majorly affecting trade deal discussions between both the countries. Right. Now, this may sound unusual and you may wonder, how can milk which comes from cows be non-vegetarian? Well, the milk might not be non-vegetarian, but the diet consumed by the cows leads to this term. Dairy farming practices in the United States of America often allows cows to fat feed that includes animal-based goods like meat and blood. Cows in America are allowed to eat feed that include parts of pigs, fish, chicken, horses. Apart from that, cattle can continue to consume pig and horse blood for protein, as well as tallow, a hard fat from rendered cattle parts, as a fattening source. However, this is not the case in India, where cows are typically fed a strictly vegetarian diet. Hence, this non-veg milk is causing contention between both the countries. India is asserting that there should be strict certification delineating that imported milk should come from cows that have not been fed animal-based goods. New Delhi has termed this as a non-negotiable red line because of cultural and religious concerns here in India. The US has termed India's demands as an unnecessary trade barrier. According to reports, Washington hinted that India's updated dairy certification implemented in November 2024, it does not state such concerns. It has told the World Trade Organization that India's updated dairy certificate remains trade restrictive and perhaps unscientific, further asserting that America's dairy goods are safe and widely consumed worldwide. In other news, Taiwan is in a war mode, simulating a potential Chinese invasion in one of its largest drills ever held this week. And the signs are ominous, to say the least, something which has also triggered reactions from China. Our next story telling you more.
Air raid sirens blaring across Taipei's skies. Cities shut down. Put on standstill, roads deserted and residents staying indoors. These are scenes from modern-day Taiwan, which seems to be under siege, when in fact it is preparing for a Chinese attack. Except this isn't a real war, but a rehearsed one at that. What is just a routine annual drill in Taiwan is bigger and better this year, with civilians equally involved in war preparations, alongside military personnel. Close to 7 million people in central Taipei alone are undergoing rigorous trainings to seek shelter. In schools, apartment buildings, parking garages, wherever they get cover.
The society is so messy now. There are a lot of unpredictable situations. So it is actually necessary to be as well prepared as possible. Everyone should cooperate as much as possible. At least we know what to do when crises happen, that we are mentally prepared. Of course, we hope for world peace, and such things would never happen, but knowing how to act if they do, drills like this would be beneficial for us.
Taiwan's approach is straight. Better be safe and prepared than sorry. With the Taiwan vice president saying that it doesn't seek conflict with China.
Taiwanese people are peace-loving. and among the friendliest and most generous in the world. We do not seek conflict. We will not provoke confrontation. And as President Lai indicated in his inaugural speech, we have urged the PRC to dialogue with the democratically elected government of Taiwan with parity and respect.
But China isn't visibly pleased with the developments, with the Chinese Foreign Ministry saying that Taiwan is part of China, no matter what the island's ruling Democratic Progressive Party says or does.
Taiwan is part of Chinese territory. The Taiwan question is purely an internal affair of China, and how to resolve it is a matter for the Chinese people. The greatest threat to peace across the Taiwan Strait is the Taiwan independent separatist forces and those behind them, the external forces that condone and support them.
With this, China sends a clear and chilling message that it will continue to uphold the One China principle. Beijing's escalating pressure on Taiwan in recent years, signaling a shadow war waiting to turn into a real one. It's a matter of not if, but when. Bureau Report, WION World is One.
Well, facing an uphill battle to halt the Russian onslaught, Ukraine is now exploring all options on the table. With promised Western weapons yet to arrive and facing a relentless enemy, Kyiv is now turning to its youngest generation, Gen Z, to take up arms and join the fight on the front lines. Our next report telling you more.
A battered nation, a brutal war. And now an urgent call to the youngest sons and daughters of Ukraine. As Russia's grinding assault stretches Ukrainian defenses to the brink, Kyiv is launching a radical last-ditch campaign to bolster its front lines, not with reinforcements from the west, but from within. Facing critical troop shortages and the delayed arrival of Western weapons, Ukraine is turning to Generation Z. In a stark appeal, the Ukrainian government is offering $25,000 up front to volunteers under 24, with another $25,000 after a year of service. A bold incentive to tempt the young into the line of fire, into the heart of the nation's war for survival. The young recruits speak of motivation to fight for their motherland.
I believe that we need the support of the whole world, because how else can we cope with this when we are quarreling with each other? We need both the support of Western partners.
Hope for the best, but prepare for the worst. If this aid comes to us, it will be very wonderful. But how many times have we been told this, and how many times has it not been done? Ukrainians must understand that we can only count on ourselves, not on the West, not on the East, not on any other part of our planet, but only on ourselves.
This radical shift in recruitment strategy represents a desperate gamble, starkly highlighting the severe human toll of the ongoing conflict. Russia has returned approximately 1,000 bodies of Ukrainian soldiers killed in combat, while Ukraine returned the remains of 19 Russian troops. These sobering numbers underscore the devastating price both nations are paying in this prolonged war. On the battlefield, the situation remains grim and unforgiving. According to the latest intelligence reports, Pokrovsk and Sumy are under intense, sustained attack. In Kharkiv, battle-hardened soldiers manning the trenches describe facing an unending swarm of Russian drones that creates a constant, deadly threat from above.
It is more difficult for us to shoot down the swarm because you will only take down, for example, 5 to 6 at most. If you manage to hit 2, that is good, but the rest of the mass will simply pass you by and you will not have time to destroy them because there are a lot of them.
With promised American weapon systems still to arrive, Ukraine is marshalling every available resource to halt the Russian advance. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has emphasized the critical importance of developing advanced drone interceptors as the most rational approach to countering the massive swarms of enemy drones. Bureau Report, WION World is One.
Well, in other news, China's top intelligence agency has publicly accused unnamed foreign spy networks of trying to steal rare earth materials from the country. China's Ministry of State Security made the statement earlier today through an online post warning that such acts threaten national security and sovereignty. The Chinese intelligence agency claims that foreign intelligence services have been attempting to smuggle these critical rare earth materials through illegal networks inside China. According to the Post, operatives have worked with domestic accomplices to extract rare earth elements by disguising them in a parcel shipments and exporting them under false labels. Tactics included, to name some, hiding powders in ceramic tile ingredients and transporting materials in water bottles marked as mechanical parts. Beijing has treated rare earths as a strategic commodity for years now. These minerals are essential for manufacturing a wide range of goods, including electric vehicles, consumer electronics, and military hardware. Now, with China holding a dominant position in the global rare earth market, controlling approximately 60% of mining and nearly 90% of refining capacity, any disruption triggers serious geopolitical friction. Chinese officials only recently agreed to resume reviewing export applications for all these materials, and that decision followed diplomatic negotiations with the US aimed at easing ongoing trade tensions. Both the countries struck a deal just last month. China would restart its licensing procedure for rare earth exports, and the US would ease some restrictions on advanced AI chips. While China refrained from identifying the countries behind these smuggling attempts, it alleged that any one foreign entity tried to stockpile rare earths by falsely declaring the origin and nature of shipped goods. The ministry further urged citizens to remain on high alert and report any suspicious behavior tied to the handling or movement of rare earth elements in China. Now, all these developments come amid signs that tensions between US and China may be easing, with the two sides reportedly exploring the possibility of a broader agreement, which perhaps could include a formal meeting between US President Donald Trump and Chinese President Xi Jinping this year. Just last week, US Secretary of State Marco Rubio said that there is, and I'm quoting here, high probability that Trump and Xi will meet this year. Well, imagine being a teenager and having the rights to not just go anywhere or do anything, but political rights as well. The right to vote. the right to elect the government of your choice, a right to have a say in nation building in some way or the other. In the United Kingdom, this might soon turn into a reality, with the UK government planning to grant 16 and 17-year-olds voting rights in all elections across UK. This election bill, if approved by Parliament, could be a major overhaul for a modern democracy like the United Kingdom, in terms of not just unlocking a new voter base for competing parties, but also giving the youth more power and agency in important decisions made regarding a country's future. This also reportedly marks the biggest change to Britain's electorate since the voting age was reduced from 21 in 1969, a move that will bring UK's national elections in line with Scotland and Wales. That's according to the government. But that is about UK, what I just told you. The question is, what about India, the world's oldest democracy? Should 16 and 17-year-olds in India be allowed to cast a vote? Will it be an empowering move for the youth in the country? Or will it just get reduced to a token act? In India, the legal age to cast a vote is 18 years, reduced from 21 years in 1989. What about the legal age to marry and settle down? Well, it's 21 years for men and 18 years for women. The legal age to work as early as 14 years, according to Child Labour Prohibition and Regulation Act 1986. In India, the youth aged 15 to 29, that age group make up a major portion of the workforce, with many joining offices and workplaces as young as just 16 or 17. So, if one is thought to be old enough to work or even pay taxes, the question is, shouldn't they also get a shot at electing their leaders, have a say in how policies are framed, and even perhaps deliberate on areas their hard-earned money should be spent on? While lowering voter age from 18 to 16 was once a topic of discussion in 2011, unfortunately, nothing much came out of it, with the Election Commission sticking to 18 years as the permissible age for voting here in India. Perhaps right now, it's time to revisit the rules once more and give those under 18 a genuine chance to air their concerns and voice their opinions and political choice with confidence. And shifting our focus to Africa, where the tiny African kingdom of Eswatini is pushing back, albeit cautiously, against US President Donald Trump's controversial third country deportation policy. The African kingdom, also formerly known as Swaziland, has now announced that it would repatriate 5 migrants who had been deported there by the United States of America. And that's after American officials said that the migrants' home countries had refused to accept them. According to the Department of Homeland Security, that is, the migrants came from Vietnam, Jamaica, Laos, Yemen and Cuba and had been serving time in American prisons for serious crimes. The removal was the first so-called third country deportation from the United States of America to take place. And that's since the Supreme Court ruled this month that the Trump administration could move forward with the practice of deporting migrants to third countries. However, Eswatini government says that it is now working with US for the transit of these inmates, these 5 migrants, to their country of origin. All right, with the country's opposition party, PUDEMO, saying that Eswatini should not be treated as a dumping ground for those deemed unfit to live elsewhere. But the question we ask tonight is, if the United States of America is putting pressure on Africa, according to reports, it's not just Eswatini, the Trump administration is pressing more African countries to accept its deported illegal immigrants. Apart from Eswatini, some other countries that have been approached till now is Nigeria. Just last week, the Nigerian foreign minister said that the US is mounting pressure on African countries to accept Venezuelans to be deported from the United States of America. Well, the gloves are off again in the high-stakes public confrontation between two of the world's most influential figures. We are talking about US President Donald Trump and Tesla CEO Elon Musk. There was a seeming lull in the punch and counter-punch after Musk floated his own party, but the latest row over the Epstein files ends up giving the tech billionaire's political face a fresh shot in the arm. The Trump-Musk face-off over Jeffrey Epstein's legacy erupts as a complex interplay of personal motivations, strategic maneuvers, and major political ramifications. Elon Musk has come out all guns blazing against Trump in the last 24 hours. There have been 35, that's the number, anti-Trump posts by Musk since Wednesday. And that's according to report. And I'm quoting what Musk has said. Number one, can't believe Epstein killed himself, Elon Musk jabs as he questions Trump's silence and approach to the Jeffrey Epstein case. In yet another one, he asks, are there likely to be electronic records in any government or commercial computers recording who traveled on Epstein's plane to the US Virgin Islands? Musk takes pot shots at how Trump has handled past issues. He hit out at Trump's ducking real issues. In response to a document circulating online titled The Epstein File Phase 1, Musk asked, where is Phase 2? And the list perhaps goes on. All this came in response to last week's joint memo by the Department of Justice and FBI, which claimed that Epstein died by suicide. They also said that there was no client list, contradicting long-standing conspiracy theories that Epstein was blackmailing elite figures, including powerful Democrats. Now, Musk's criticism comes as Donald Trump faces scrutiny following a report in the Wall Street Journal. The report alleges that Trump wrote a birthday note to Epstein in the year 2003 that allegedly featured Trump's name typed within the outline of a naked woman. Trump has denied writing this note to Epstein, telling the Wall Street Journal, this is not me, this is a fake thing. He has also threatened to sue the Wall Street Journal and its owner, Rupert Murdoch, over the article. What all this marks is, number one, the rise of Musk as a political entity with his immense wealth, vast social media platform, and populist appeal to directly intervene in American governance. There's no denying that the long-term viability of Musk's America Party faces major legal and organizational hurdles. But Musk's demonstrated willingness to take on the real giant makes him a formidable force in US politics today. Staying on with stories from the United States of America, a series of new apps are doing rounds in the US. Well, they neither give you the directions of a place you don't know of, nor they help you with retail suggestions there. But what they do is far more serious. They raise alarm whenever an immigration officer is around. In the US, these apps have become somewhat of a rage, with many increasingly turning to such applications in the wake of US President Donald Trump's crackdown on illegal immigrants. What do these apps do, by the way? That's the question. Well, number one, they alert migrants living legally or illegally in America of the location of immigration and customs enforcement officers, also known as ICE agents. One such is ICE Block, a mobile app allowing people to report sightings of ICE agents in their community. But how does this perhaps work? As per the app owner, Joshua Aaron, it just takes 2 taps to report a sighting within 5 miles of someone's current location. And other users of the community around the same radius also get a notification alert almost immediately. Who can then avoid the said location? Best part is that they can remain absolutely anonymous while reporting these instances. Another app called Kokoi, developed recently, performs somewhat of a similar function. And given the spike of immigration raids reported across America, these apps are fast gaining ground among undocumented migrants who are downloading them out of fear for deportation. However, most of these apps are now directly under Trump's radar. According to Fox News, Attorney General Pam Bondi slammed one of these apps, saying it could perhaps cause federal agents to be injured or targeted and risk their safety on field, on the ground. In a statement, the director of ICE, Todd M. Loyan, raised concerns regarding immigration officers and agents facing a 500% increase in assaults because of all these apps. In a recent tweet, U.S. Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem confirmed the attacks against ICE officers to have risen to a staggering 830%. And that's earlier this month. Noem stated that she is working with the Justice Department to pull a plug on such apps. In the light of all of this, the question is, will such a technology hold water or perhaps fizzle out in the future? In other news, buried deep beneath Antarctica's icy heart lies a frozen time capsule older than human civilization itself. Scientists have just retrieved a 1.5 million year old ice core that could rewrite everything we know about Earth's climate. This isn't just about the past, this ice could shape the future. Take a look.
In a world suffocating under climate anxiety, the answers may lie frozen under our feet. A scientific team drilling into the ancient heart of Antarctica has pulled up one of the oldest ice samples, a pristine 2.7-kilometer core carrying 1.5 million years of Earth's frozen history. From the surface, it looks like a cylinder of ice, but inside it holds whispers from a forgotten world, bubbles of air locked in time, carrying messages from a climate long gone.
In Antarctica, when the snow falls, it doesn't melt, so it accumulates and it forms layer upon layer over millions of years. So what we can do is go and drill down through that ice sheet. So much in the same way as an apple corer, you just core down and retrieve the sections of ice from in between. So what we end up with is cylinders of ice that go all the way down through the ice sheet, and in this case 2.8 kilometers.
The international effort, known as the Beyond Epica project, is a race against time. Scientists hope this ancient ice will unlock clues about the Earth's carbon dioxide levels and temperatures before the mid-Pleistocene shift, a major turning point when ice ages began changing rhythm from 40,000-year to 100,000-year cycles.
If we are able to retrieve that, we can learn a lot about the climate of the past that we haven't been able to see before. And being able to see and understand the climate of the past, we can better understand what will happen with climate change of the future, which is something that I like to work with because it's a very relevant problem of today.
Scientists will now thaw this 2.8 km long core inch by inch, unleashing what's trapped, specks of ancient dust, volcanic ash, and microscopic diatoms. What will spill out? Evidence of climate cycles, mysterious glacial shifts, a whiff of ice age mammoths, all written in layers older than human memory. Researchers know there was a turning point. About 900,000 years ago, the world's climate cycle inexplicably changed. For the first time, thanks to this sample, science will have answers not just about the past, but for the future of every single person on Earth.
All right, the sky has lost a pioneer. Felix Baumgartner, who broke the sound barrier in a record-setting skydive from the edge of space, has now died in a paragliding crash in Italy. He was 56. Baumgartner was flying a motorized paraglider in Italy's central Marche region. He lost control and crashed near a hotel swimming pool. The cause of the accident is still unknown. Some reports suggest that he may have suffered a medical emergency mid-air. Well, the Daily Mail reported that he lost consciousness after the crash and later died of cardiac arrest. Baumgartner wasn't just any daredevil. He was the daredevil himself. In 2012, he completed a jump from the edge of space. He jumped from a balloon 24.5 miles or 39 kilometers above Earth and became the first skydiver to break the sound barrier, reaching speeds over 843 miles per hour. The world watched as he landed safely back on Earth. The self-styled god of the skies began parachuting as a teenager. He then went on to make thousands of jumps from planes and bridges. Perhaps he even jumped off the Christ the Redeemer statue in Brazil. In 2003, he crossed the English Channel using a carbon fiber wing. In his home country of Austria, Baumgartner was also known for controversial views, including support for dictatorship. Baumgartner spent his life pushing limits and redefining what humans could achieve in the air. And tributes have been pouring in from across the world. And with that, we slip into a very short break, but stay with us. You are watching WION World is One. Stay tuned.
To bring the benefits of the Subhash Chandra Show to your educational institution, teachers and students, send an invitation to Juhi Jha at juhi@such.org.in.
WION, India's global voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide, because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION, World is One.
The Earth is sending distress signals. Wildfires, droughts, and melting glaciers. Can we reverse the damage? Explore the harrowing effects of climate change. It's a wake-up call. Global emergency. Climate Tracker on WION World is One.
From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening, as we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch.
The Earth is sending distress signals. Wildfires, droughts, and melting glaciers. Can we reverse the damage? Explore the harrowing effects of climate change. It's a wake-up call. Global emergency. Climate Tracker on WION World is One.
WION, India's global voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide, because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION, World is One.
Vielleicht nur